Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Monday, August 22nd, 2016. I am Dave Biddle. Very happy to be joined by Steve Helwagen. Steve, the AP poll came out yesterday. You wrote the piece. Buckeyes checking in at number 6. Number 1 is Alabama, followed by number 2 Clemson, number 3 Oklahoma, number 4 Florida State, number 5 LSU, then of course the Buckeyes at 6. They are followed by Michigan, Stanford, Tennessee, and then Notre Dame 10th. Also from the Big Ten, Michigan State checks in at 12th. Iowa is 17th. Steve, your takeaway from the AP poll, sir.
Well, I thought that's probably about where they would figure to be. They were 5th, I believe, in the coaches poll, and then 6th in this poll. So, that it's very comparable, I would say. A lot of different opinions have come out. I mean, there was one voter from California who picked Ohio State number 1, which seems a little bit high, but at the same time, there was another voter that had him as low as number 12. And that guy, as I did my research, was one of the spurned Urban Meyer lovers from Jacksonville, Florida. So, and I even did a search with his name and Urban Meyer, and he did the obligatory, well, Will Muschamp won't let him get away with that column in 2011, So, Urban Meyer said one thing and did another, how they all rank and file got on board with that train, and we know how that great reign of Will, the great reign of Will Muschamp in Florida. So, we just crack each other up all day with this. But back to the AP poll, I think that it was probably about what you'd expect. I think it's really interesting that they're going to play Oklahoma, obviously. So that'll be an elimination game to an extent. I think the loser can come back and get into the format later on, but I do believe there are elimination games up there. Alabama, LSU, the loser of that game probably can forget it, and I think that Florida State and Clemson, the loser of that game, could probably forget it because they're like Ohio State and Michigan State last year. The loser of that showdown game is not going to win their division, is not going to win their league. So, you wouldn't think so. I mean, it's possible. People have talked about, if Ohio State were to lose to Michigan State or Michigan, could they still win the division? Or if they lost to Wisconsin and still beat Michigan State and Michigan, they could still win the division, however you want to play it. But long story short, I'm not upset one way or the other. I think it's a good position for them to be in. And the good news is they're going to get to go out on the field and prove it week after week, and that's what's really going to come down.
The Buckeyes are more than 2 weeks through camp now, Steve, and knock on wood, we're not hearing about a lot of serious injuries now. We'll meet with Urban Meyer later today. Maybe he will reveal some bad news, hopefully not. But obviously we learned the first week Malcolm Pridgeon and Darius Slade likely out for the season. There's a chance Pridgeon could come back late in the year, but unlikely. But we know how grueling of a camp this is, and I think if something major would have happened last week, it would have leaked out by now. Now, maybe if it was something to a guy who's not a starter, maybe not. But as far as any frontline players, I think we would have known by now. And they got after it really hard last week and the week before that. So, again, knock on wood, things can change. But I think Buckeye fans should be happy that, so far the injury news has been good for Ohio State.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dave. You're talking about Malcolm Pridgeon possibly out for the season. Darius Slade is out for the season. I would imagine we're going to find out that there's some more bumps and bruises in there today. And I agree with you that even though they were kind of on lockdown for the last week, that if something major had happened, it would have certainly wafted out of there one way or the other. So I think it sounds good on paper that nobody has been through any serious injuries. We're going to know for sure here when we meet with the coach around 11:30 today, and I think it'll be quite a briefing. I mean, people are going to ask about the backup quarterback position. Has Joe Burrow won that, or has Dwayne Haskins, surpassed him in the last week? And then, of course, running back, is it going to be Curtis Samuel or Michael Weber? And I am a firm belief it's going to be a platoon with both of those guys, and it would surprise me if they both started the first game with Samuel at the H-back and Weber at running back, but they split the time at running back. And then you go on down through, I mean, wide receiver, you've got 13 scholarship guys. Zach Smith was talking like he wanted a 6 or 7 mean rotation. You know, that doesn't add up. I mean, how do you fit 13 quarts into a 6-quart jug? I don't think it happens. So I want to see, you know, have they sorted through that? Have they got a consistent playmaker or two in that group? And you know, Michael Jordan at left guard, or is that going to happen? And you know, go over to defense, cornerback and safety. There were some open jobs there. Did Lattimore win the cornerback job? Is Damon Webb going to be the safety that's open? You know, I guess we'll get some of those answers hopefully later today.
Yeah, as you mentioned, we're going to interview Urban Meyer at 11:30. Our first chance to get to interview Coach Meyer since last Sunday. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of news today. So again, today 11:30 a.m. Eastern, Urban Meyer. Then after that, Steve, we're getting Zach Smith and some wide receivers. We're getting Kerry Combs and some corners. What are you looking forward to the most from the assistant coaches and the players today, Steve?
Well, again, I think some of those questions I raised a second ago are going to be answered. And Zach Smith, I mean, I think he's in a tough spot because he's got 10 or 12 very talented wide receivers in that group who are ready to play this year, and only, you know, one football to go around, only so much playing time to go around, and I think that they're going to have to get to the bottom of that and figure out who is and who isn't going to be in that rotation, and it'll be interesting to see if guys who aren't necessarily in the rotation or in the plans, if they stick around. I think that's a definite question at this point. So, yeah, I think that there's a lot there. Kerry Combs, he's great to talk to. He'll give us a full clue in on the defense, I'm sure, and what they're seeing there, particularly with the secondary and his guys at cornerback. So, again, he's a guy, he's got 3 or 4 guys that are really tight and close, you know, in terms of ability. Well, after Garyon Conley, who I thought, you know, for all intents and purposes, was an all Big Ten player last year. He just didn't get recognized with Eli Apple on the team. So I think that, you know, after Conley, let's see who the next 2 or 3 guys are that are going to line up, who's the nickelback. And, hey, let's go play some football. We're tired of talking about it. I think, what are we, 13 days, 12 days out. It's time to strap it up and go play football.
Yeah, I want to know who is on the 2 deep at wide receiver. We know who the starters are unless something's changed. It's going to be Noah Brown and Corey Smith. But who are the top backups? You know, is it Austin Mack? Is it Paris Campbell? Is it KJ Hill? Is it Torrance Gibson? You know, are they going to rotate a few guys in and out on that second team? I want to know who is going to be on the 2 deep at wide receiver. So it's going to be fun talking to those guys. And so a big day as far as team coverage. Also a big day on the recruiting front. Last thing on the show here, Tyjon Lindsey, 5-star wide receiver, will announce today around 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific. He's a big-timer. As I said, 5-star wide receiver. He is ranked as the number 5 wide receiver in the country, the number 24 overall player in the country. He's transferred back to Bishop Gorman in Las Vegas. Steve, this looks like almost a foregone conclusion. Anything can happen in recruiting. You look at the crystal ball picks. 89% go to Ohio State, just 8 for USC, 3 for Oregon. I mean, it's going to be a shock if he goes anywhere else besides Ohio State. Your thoughts on that and just anything you want to say about Tyjon Lindsey?
Yeah, I think with the way that Zach Smith and Dwayne Haskins in particular were retweeting Lindsey on Sunday that and they were talking about how it's Christmas Eve and all these other things that they get big present on Monday and whatever, you know, it's Christmas in August, you know, 4 months early, this guy is going to commit. And, I'll tell you what, I was at Friday Night Lights. He was very impressive at Friday Night Lights. He's a smaller receiver, probably fits that H-back position pretty well, or flanker. And the other thing is the rapport that you saw when heading off into the night, it was basically Zach Smith, 1 or 2 of the current wide receivers at Ohio State, and then Tyjon Lindsey and Trayvon Grimes. They were all headed off to go probably chicken wings or something. You know, you never know what's going on. But, yeah, it was very impressive to see the rapport that he had built with current Buckeyes and also with Zach Smith. And I think it's a foregone conclusion that they get both guys this week. And the rich just keep getting richer, it seems. And you made the point, he's number 24 in the composite. I was going to do a search for his name, and I called up the list, and I said, I'll just scroll down a little bit. It's right there. just crack ourselves up again. Another top 25 5-star guy picking Ohio State. Does this ever get old, Dave?
It does not, and they're going to get Trayvon Grimes later this week, so it's probably. So it just keeps getting better with this Urban Frank Meyer. Hopefully we can keep him around for a while. But great stuff out of Steve Helwagen. Again, we will talk to Urban Frank Meyer today at 11:30 a.m. So keep it locked to Bucknuts for that. Keep it locked to Bucknuts for the Tyjon Lindsey announcement and much more. Thanks again to Steve Helwagen. I appreciate it, buddy. And thank you to the listeners for tuning into the show. I hope everyone has a great day. Let's hear some Buckeye swag. Best damn band in the land.